In 1972, an album came out of Philadelphia that was very unique and advanced for the time and place in question. The band was Good God, and from their lone self-titled album, the track Murder of Crows. Moving up half steps, na 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 na, d d d d, E flat, E flat. Already you can tell they've got this chromatic tendency with lots of notes. Kind of that Ginger Baker style of drumming where you like where you have like this big arsenal of toms that you circle around to like follow every single last note that the guitarist is playing. It was a technique that he did a lot on the Baker Gurvitz Army albums. So this structure is basically between like three keys, just just next to one another, like D D D D D D D D D D D, and now we're in E, but we're in low E. We've gone down an octave. Hear that faint Fender Rhodes? That sax is really filling up the sonic space here. Let's see. Soprano, and alto, and tenor saxophone by Greg Scott, who later emerged in the funk band Breakwater. And let's see. Bass by John Ransome, who only, according to Discogs, didn't really do anything after this album, sadly. Guitar by Zeno Sparkles, limited to this, and piano, electric piano, clavinet, soprano saxophone, Carlton Kent, who later emerged in the South Soul Orchestra, and has a few like jazz credits and soul credits, played on some Blue Magic albums. Margie Joseph, Loletta Holloway, Carol Williams. Interesting. Yeah. This album was co-produced by Skip Drinkwater, a familiar name on like soul and funk albums from the time period. Yeah, he produced at least one Catalyst album, an album by The Visitors, an album by has some credits on Alfonso Mouzon's The Man Incognito, a couple of Norman Connor's records. Eddie Henderson's coming through. So this guy got around in the jazz funk soul scene. I think who does this guitar tone remind me of? The soloing, I'm thinking maybe Terry Kath, when Kath goes into some of those like fluid run from this time period, when he had those like thicker tones. John McLaughlin's Devotion album, I'm pretty sure, was an influence here. There's a part of this that also sounds like it has, like I'm hearing some echo of the what was going on in Europe, particularly Germany, although completely by coincidence, because I don't think this band would have been aware of any of that. Those chords were kind of like, what were they? Kind of like diminished sounding toward the end. Those sustained, those dun 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 dun. Yeah. Once again, something I would associate with what was coming. That I would associate with what was coming on at in England at the time. Like, I'm thinking maybe like a passage that recalls like Czar or Gracious or something. Those like open cadence, like heavy chords, like in weird, like notes thrown in. Yeah. Basically, that's why I said very unique for its time and place, because jazz rock hadn't really developed all that much outside of just the special class of musicians that had founded the style at that point. I mean, as early as so for 1972, an album to be so like focused in that area, and yet also to have some elements that were more unique to like the other side of the pond. It's strange for an album like this to have been produced by a group of Philly area musicians this early. Let's hear another track from the album, Dragon Song. If you were to tell me that this right here that what we're hearing was from a German album from 1972, I totally believe you. I mean, it almost sounds like Brainstorm. Hear the drummer just throwing in all those rolls, and then all that mist as well, and we've got that persistent like guitar figure, and then just the oozing, billowing sax. That last chord, that dun 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 dun. What they were doing was it was in F sharp, and then yeah, and then dropping the octave a step and throwing in a seventh. That E note you heard was a seventh thrown into F sharp. Yeah. So it didn't really change key. It just changed a note within the same. I guess, yeah, of anything, this reminds me most of all of Devotion by John McLaughlin, because he, on that album, The structures, the underlying rhythmic structures were still kind of rock. The chordal progressions or such. But the soloing was just like all legato and fluid, and it also had that all those psychedelic like tones and everything, sounds going off everywhere. Dragon song by Good God, and before that, Murder of Crows from the 1972 album Good God, the singular release by this Philadelphia quintet. And the musicians, a lot of talent here. Sadly, I guess only one or two of them really did anything outside the band. One of them, of course, forming the band, Breakwater, that put out some albums in the later part of the decade. And the producer, Skip Drinkwater, going on to do a lot of other things in the jazz funk soul scenes. Yeah. For more Rubies and Sapphires from the Goodwater album, see the directory of albums from 1972. Yeah, over about 1,050 strong at this point. For Tasty Reds from this album, as well as the jazz rock scene was picking up in Europe, so you can find like the Brainstorm album on there, the Pazop album, which was recorded in '72. Yeah, the second Moving Gelatin Plates album, and a whole lot more. And like and subscribe and follow me on social media, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the layers of these two tracks, the instrumentation, the nuances, sounds that stood out to you, moments that inspired. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most air-traveled trimaximalist, signing off.